Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. Today's episode, we're going to talk about the unearthed arcana mages of Strixhaven. I hope I'm pronouncing that one correctly. If you like the channel, please like and subscribe. Please share. We're very new, so those likes mean so much to us. So please help us out if you can. Today's episode, we're going to talk about how these subclasses work and how that differentiates from the subclasses they've done before, and what our opinions really are about them. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into how these subclasses work. So with the Mages of Strixhaven, the way the subclasses work is different from the way we've seen them before. Previously, you would get a class, then the subclass attached directly to it. These subclasses are movable between a variety of different classes. Each one usually has about 3 that you can jump in between, and each one of those classes can do it. They are kind of built towards the casters, sorcerer, bard, warlock, and druid. For whatever reason, clerics are kind of out of the loop on this one, but I think that kind of makes sense with the way that clerics are devoted towards their deities. So in this situation, where you would gain your class ability, whatever level that may be, whether it's level 1 for a sorcerer or level 3 for a bard, you would then replace those abilities with one of these, which in turn can be okay. That's really not that different in the way they would put out subclasses, but the fact that it can be spread out between 3 different classes really blurs the line of class identity, and that I'm just don't happen to be a fan of. Maybe this might be a leftover from a previous version where they had these kinds of subclasses that you can build in from starting anywhere. But as a newer player, they kind of just remove the class identity for me, and I think that's a little strange of a step because of how much work and how much intricacies are involved with these classes and their subclasses. So I just unpopular opinion, not a big fan. I like my warlocks to be different from my wizards. I like my sorcerers to be different from my bards, and I like that distinctive difference with them. That being said, a lot of these subclasses look like they, to me and to us here, at least it makes a lot of sense for them to be devolved into their specific classes. And we're going to get into that right now, actually. So here we go. Here's our opinions of how to best use these subclasses and where we kind of feel like they belong. So right off the bat, we're going to talk about the Mage of Lorehold. This is a mage that gains ancient secrets and power from ancient spirits. This right off the bat screams warlock to us through and through. It is available to warlocks, bards, and wizards. Though a wizard might want to consume lore as a great academic achievement of itself, but it seems that gaining this power from an ancient spirit speaks more so to the patron warlock relationship than it does in those other aspects. Bards on their own do acquire a lot of lore and do investigate in certain things that's covered in some of their other lore classes, but a bard seems more worldly to us. They gain experience and knowledge through their travels and things like that, and their involvement with other people and powers. That's kind of what bards kind of really speak to, at least in our perspective. So warlocks here really make up just a profound stance here, and I feel like it really speaks to them. You gain the ability to use an ancient spirit and kind of force it into an inanimate statue. Why it's specifically a statue, I don't know. Again, this is all unearthed arcana, so it's just play test, and we'll see what happens when it comes to fruition, if it ends up doing so. But this power makes it kind of like a Beastmaster pet, where it has its own abilities and it gains HP and its damage increases with your character level in this class. It's a very cool thing. It's a very nice little spiritual connection that you can gain from it, and the lore possibilities and the backgrounds you can make with it is very, very cool. Definitely one of the winners of the subclasses that are available. Now we're going to jump into the Mage of Prismari. This is a mage that is available to the druid, sorcerer, and wizard. This has to do with elemental magics, fire, thunder, and cold. One of the abilities it gains you is a special dash ability that, depending on what element you choose, has different rider effects. And these effects will affect other abilities you cast, you gain as riders for casting spells from there on then forth. This screams sorcerer to us, simply because you gain this almost meta magic feel to it, because these are elements that have not been harnessed in this way before and throughout the game as its existence currently, and you get that feel that you're bending these elements to your will, and being connected with these elements produces different effects. This is very meta magic like, speaks very well to the sorcerer. It seems to complement its abilities that already exist, though druids do have an innate elemental connection to their magics, and that's why they tend to have a lot of fire and thunder spells. But there just seems to be a disconnect between the druid and the Mage of Prismari, because again, you're connected to a college. You're not connected to like an environment or a realm or a circle. And wizards, yes, it's very close to the evoker kind of a line, but again, that differential of not bending magic to your will and kind of following magic as it exists, is very, very wizard-like, and that's inherent in the way the wizard does everything, because they're not really traditionally chaotic in their practice of magic, because they kind of tend to follow strict sets of rules with magic, and it doesn't very rarely bend to other aspects of it. This brings us to the big brain of the mages, the Mage of Quandrix. This is a mage that screams wizard. It's available to the wizard and the sorcerer, and the reason why it screams wizard is because it's based on seeing the world through a mathematical formula, like cramming theoretical physics deep into the well of Dungeons and Dragons. You see the world through mathematical formulas and equations and try to manipulate them in that kind of a sense. Being able to manipulate them kind of feels sorcery, but with the big brain aspects, it seems like there's a lot of time and dedication dealt to this, and that seems right up to the wizard's alley, because that's what the wizard is. Wizard is time and dedication and studiousness and effort to understand. So to us, wizard right off the bat. Some of the cool abilities they get is functions of probability, which if you cast a spell that targets at least one creature, and you can add an effect that causes a creature to make a wisdom check, and if they fail, they get a d6 penalty to their next attack roll. You can also give this to an ally, which gives them a plus d6 to an attack roll or saving throw. Both of these effects last until the start of your next turn. Very cool, very useful, and you can save certain people in certain scenarios, especially if you need to have a buff going for you for a certain amount of time. Putting that on the caster that has that, very, very beneficial. Next thing I want to talk to you about is Velocity Shift, which is another cool Mage of Quandrix ability. This is a reaction you take, so it's very, very rare that casters have a lot of reactions that you're going to use, so having another one in the toolbox is a pretty good idea. This one, if a creature moves or starts its turn within 30 feet of you, you can cause it to make a check. I believe it's a charisma check. And you can cause that creature to be teleported in a different space of your choosing within 30 feet of you. You can use this on your allies, and they can willingly choose to fail this. Very cool. You got to be very strategic to use this, but in a very tactical player, this can make a huge difference. You're now moving pieces all over the board when you feel like it. You can't only use it for a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, but in the right fight, that's more than enough to change the tides of battle. You got a melee heavy character going towards your caster, force the check, you get the right roll, he's halfway across, he's got to go through all your fighters to get back there. That's a big issue for them. That changes everything, especially if they had to use most of their movement just to get close to hitting someone. You can be very smart with this. You can make a very, very cool difference in the game because of it. So again, big brain wizard right off the bat. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the Mage of Silverquill. This is a mage that is all about using words as weapons. I know what you're thinking. Bards. Right off the bat, that's exactly what we thought. Bards, wizards, and warlocks can use this class, but it makes so much sense. Being a bard, you get the ability to choose Vicious Mockery or Sacred Flame right off the bat just for being eligible to get this class at the certain class level. And you get abilities to demoralize enemies and empower your friends. It's cool. It works very well with the way the bard is, where you can buff and debuff. Fits right into that wheelhouse. One of the only spell that I really want to talk to you about this, because there's a couple of cool things, but this is kind of like the standout for us. It's called Inky Shroud. This is a specialized form of darkness, which you just automatically learn. I believe it's level 6. And this is cool because not only can you see in this magical darkness, but creatures that start their turn in it that you choose take 2d10 psychic damage. I might be wrong about the damage, but I'm pretty sure it's 2d10. And you choose who gets to take it. Plus, being able to see in it and automatically gaining it as an additional spell that doesn't count towards your spells learned is a very strong boon. Darkness is a very big spell, and being able to have advantage on attacking things that are inside of it can change things drastically for you, because you're basically now crit fishing, because this is your best chance to do so. Very valuable, very cool concept, and it's just fun. There's the whole character of a Mage of Silverquill just inherits this just great bard-like stature of being able to just be confident and be demoralizing when you want to be and be uplifting when you feel like it, and just meshing those two and becoming such a benefit to the world around you. This brings us to the Mage of Witherbloom. If you're like us and you like dark and edgy, then as soon as you heard those words, you were like, yeah, there's something about this that I'm gonna like. Now, this is a very, very cool subclass. This is available to druids and warlocks. This is very, very hard to place because, it's a little different of the mages, and these druids and warlocks kind of fit in a very specific kind of category. But we went with druid here because it really complements the ability to transform, which you'll see when you get the availability to use Essence Trap. That is a 1 minute duration. Use it as a bonus action, and you can either use Overgrowth, which gives you the availability to regain HP by expending a hit dice, which you can do once per round as a bonus action. Or you can use Wither Strike, which turns damage that you deal into necrotic damage. And on top of that, it ignores resistance to necrotic damage. Very cool right off the bat. If I was going to deal damage, I would want it to be necrotic. It right off the bat, you get to use this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, so it very well complements Wild Shape. It gives you that ability to do so, maybe even replacing it depending on how you really want to play this out and depending on how you work with your DM. The next ability gives you, it's called Withered Brew. This gives you the availability to create brews. One, fortifying, giving you resistance to a couple. You can choose resistance to a few damage types. The other one is quickening, which is basically like a souped up healing potion. It gives you 2d6 and removes a condition, which is very, very, very important. And lastly, it gives you a toxifying potion, which is great because you can apply it to a weapon, and when the weapon hits, it automatically deals poison damage, and then the person that got hit by the weapon has to make a Constitution saving throw or be poisoned till the end of the turn. Right off the bat, it's a great way to add a chance to get poisoned, to add additional damage. Yeah, a lot of things are resistant to poison, but that's a very, very cool use of it. And again, it's an option between choosing the three. Very strong, fortifying and quickening, because you get resistance and you get a free health potion. Either way, you can't really go wrong. It's a very cool concept. And if you want to try poisons, I urge you to do so. One of the very, very cool abilities is Withering Vortex. This is a cool one. This one, you deal damage to any number of creatures. As long as they're not undead or constructs, you take half of the damage dealt to one creature and you give it to one of your allies. You can choose which ally you give it to, and it kind of just happens. It's very cool. You see someone low, drop a big hit, give them a little HP so that way they can keep going. Incredible. Very, very cool. And you get this awesome, play with life kind of feel. This is where I would make my Plague Doctor character. It has all those essence. With a high wisdom, you'd be good at medicine. You making brews and things like that would be very, very up your alley. It's very cool, very awesome. This is the one I enjoy the most. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to sit through and listen to our opinions about this. Some of it might be unpopular opinions, but, that's what we are. We are unpopular opinions. Thank you for giving a Spooky Kid a chance. And please, if you've stayed through this long, I beg you, give us that like and that share and subscribe if you want to see more content. Thank you, thank you, thank you.